Today we are going to discuss pollen-pistil interaction. When compatible pollen grains reach up to the stigmatic surface, their hydration initiates their germination. With the hydration of the pollen grains, the swelling of the exine starts and the intine the intine comes out in the form of pollen tube. The pollen germination, the primary requirement for the pollen germination is their hydration, whether it is in vivo or in vitro. That is, it is taking place in natural conditions, that is on the stigmatic surface, or in artificial conditions. Stigma, that is having a specialized surface for catching and holding the pollen grains, and uptake of water leads to swelling of the pollen grains and their activation. The high relative humidity is the first essential requirement for the pollen germination. The main function of stigma is to provide the pollen with water necessary for their germination. In many plants, it also supplies necessary medium for pollen germination in the form of exudates. These exudates are required for the holding of the pollen grains. They are providing hydration and they are holding the pollen grains. On the basis of presence and absence of exudates in the stigmatic surface, the stigmas are of two types. The stigmas which are having exudates, they are known as wet stigmas, for example petunia, and those which are not having exudates on the stigmatic surface are known as dry stigmas. The chief function of exudates appear to be retention and germination of pollen. According to Ciampolini et al., in species having solid styles, the exudates constitutes the polysaccharides, proteins and lipids, whereas those with hollow styles show only polysaccharides. In certain plants, for example, Diplotaxis tenuifolia, family Brassicaceae, the stigma is covered with cuticle. The pollen grains degrade the cutin enzymatically in order to obtain water necessary for their germination. That is, the cuticular surface of the uh, stigma that dissolves by the enzymatic action and that produce water that is necessary for germination of the pollen grains. The pollen grains contain an elaborate set of enzymes. Some of these present in the wall and are available as soon as the pollen grain makes contact with the stigma. This figure is showing the pollen germination on the stigmatic surface. Only compatible pollen grains when reach on the stigma, they germinate. The incompatible pollen grains may reach up to the stigma, but they do not germinate at all, or if they germinate, the pollen tube is inhibited in the styler region. That is, if the incompatible pollen grains may be inhibited either on the stigmatic surface or in the styler region. That depends on the type of incompatibility reaction taking place, that is whether it is gametophytic self incompatibility or sporophytic self incompatibility, which we shall later discuss in the pollen tube grows through the styler canal, enters into the ovule and embryo sac. Pollen tube in angiosperms as well as in gymnosperms behave as sperm carrier. In fertilization, where there is involvement of pollen tube, such a fertilization is known as siphonogamous, and such a phenomenon is known as siphonogamy. the pollen grains of different species are incompatible. The different species of pollen grains, if coming on the stigmatic surface, they may show incompatibility, and this is known as interspecific incompatibility, that is incompatibility reaction taking place between individuals of two different species, or the incompatibility reaction may take place between individual of same species. It is known as intraspecific incompatibility, that is the incompatibility reaction is taking place between individuals of the same species. This intraspecific incompatibility, that is also termed as self incompatibility, that is the pollen grains are showing self incompatibility reaction. The incompatibility reaction is either controlled morphologically or genetically. There is a position S allele hypothesis which explains the self incompatibility at genetic level. According to this hypothesis, similar alleles in the male and female parents are responsible for the incompatible reactions. Many cellular organelles undergo considerable changes in comparison to what has been observed in inactive ripe pollen. With the hydration, activation of the pollen grains starts, and there are several changes which are observed in the activated pollen grains, and that has been observed in the pollen grain of Lycopersicon peruvianum, which are listed here. The cisternal or rough endoplasmic reticulum arranged in stacks in the mature pollen are set free. Production of abundant vesicles, formation of a thick callosic layer, aggregation of ribosomes into polysomes, formation of lamellae inside the plastids. Activation of pollen grain does not induce any change in mitochondria, lipidic body, generative cell and vegetative nucleus. There is sufficient evidence that the pollen germination specific RNAs are transcribed before the morphological ripening of the pollen and are stored in an inactive form. As a consequence, the pollen can germinate and the tube can grow up to a certain length when incubated in the presence of a transcription inhibitor such as actinomycin D. Actinomycin D is a transcription inhibitor, and if pollen grains, the mature pollen grains are incubated with the actinomycin D, germination take place. Normally only one tube develops from a pollen grain, that is the most of the pollen grains are monosiphonous, but polysiphonous pollen grains have been reported. For example, there are 10 pollen tubes in Elthia rosea and 14 in Malva neglecta, but as a rule only one of them grows further. There may be formation of more than one pollen tube in a pollen grain, but ultimately only one grows and is involved in the process of fertilization. In plants where pollen grains are united into tetrads, for example orchids or pollinia, that is pollinia are found in members of family Asclepiadaceae, several pollen tubes are produced at the same time and all of them may grow. Branching of pollen tube is quite common in some members of Amentiferae. Now the functions of exudate, that is the exudate present on the stigmatic surface, has several roles. Help in adhesion, hydration and germination of pollen on stigma. Protect the pistil from insect attacks and or microbial infection. Act as a liquid cuticle to save stigma from dehydration. Serve as food for vectors during pollination. Serve as nutrition for the growing pollen tubes through stigma and style. With regard to the fact that pollen tubes always grow in the direction of ovary, Strasburger 1887 stated that the path of pollen tubes in the pistil is guided by the secretion from the ovule. Subsequently, it was demonstrated that the ovules, placenta and inner epidermis of the ovary and the stigma attract pollen tubes. Calcium ions are naturally occurring chemotropic agent in the pistil of Antirrhinium majus. In the ovary, the concentration of calcium ion is extremely high in the placenta and the ovary wall, but the ovules have comparatively low calcium ion and there is no increase in it in the micropyle or embryo sac. Now, growth and structure of pollen tube. The pollen tubes as a rule emerge from the germ pores of the pollen grains, which are generally covered with only a very thin layer of exine. The first event associated with germination is hydration that we have already discussed, and the outer with the hydration, the outer pectic layer of the intine swells, which leads to the rupture of exine. Almost entire content of the grain now move into the tube. Rapid growth of the tube is restricted to the tip region. This figure is showing the germinated pollen grain in which pollen tube has emerged, and the cytoplasm is confined to the apical region, and the figure B is showing the enlarged apical region of the pollen tube. In a growing tube, most of the cytoplasm is confined in the apical region that we have seen in the figure. To restrict the cytoplasm to the apical region of the growing tube, a series of calloge plugs are formed at a regular distance behind the tip. The calloge plugs originate from the inner wall of the pollen tube and they grow towards the center of the pollen tube and finally blocking the pollen tube. This figure is showing the development of calloge plug in the pollen tube. From left to right, the calloge plug formation, how calloge plug formation takes place is shown. The calloge plug formation starts on the inner wall of the pollen tube. It grows towards the center and finally seals the pollen tube. The transparent apical zone is called cap block. It exists only as long as the tube is growing and disappears when the growth ceases. Pollen tube wall. Pollen tube is made up of three wall layers: outer pectic layer, middle pectocellulosic layer, in which fibrillar component rich in beta 1,4-glucans are found, and inner callogic layer that is rich in beta 1,3 linked glucans. Now, path of pollen tube. After pollen germination, the pollen tubes grow on the surface of stigma. Based on the morphological features, three kinds of styles have been recognized: solid, open and semi-solid. Solid style, mainly found in dicots, is characterized by the presence of central strand of elongated specialized cells that constitute the conducting tissue or the transmitting tissue. This is longitudinal section of the pistil. Here the pollen grains are germinating on the stigmatic surface. Some of the pollen tubes have reached up to the ovule and some have just initiated. Now, entry of pollen tube into the ovule. The pollen tube may enter into the ovule from the three sides. It may enter through the micropylar region, then it is known as porogamy, or the pollen tube may enter into the ovule through chalazal end, then it is known as chalazogamy, or it may enter into the ovule through integument or funicle, then this is termed as mesogamy. With respect to porogamy, it has been suggested by some workers that entry of pollen tube into the ovule and its subsequent growth toward the embryo sac is regulated. The idea of chemotropic guidance of pollen tube growth towards the embryo sac is supported by Rosen 1965. However, he holds the view that the substance is secreted by the micropyle itself rather than the synergids. These three figures are showing the process of entry of pollen tube into the embryo sac, into the ovule and ultimately to the embryo sac. First figure 1 is showing the porogamy, that is pollen tube is entering into the ovule through micropylar end. Figure B is showing chalazogamy. Here the pollen tube is entering into the ovule through chalazal region, and third figure is showing the mesogamy. Here pollen tube is entering into the ovule through integument. But from this figure, from these figures, one more thing we can conclude that whether pollen tube is entering through micropyle, chalazal region or integument, but it always enters into the embryo sac through micropylar region. Now, it was Chow 1972. He concluded with his experiments on Paspalum orbiculaire that the integument by its dissolution secretes a mucilaginous substance, that is a water soluble carbohydrate, which helps in the growth of pollen tube both mechanically and chemotropically. That is, the integument of the ovule is gets dissolved at the time of entry of the pollen tube, and that by the dissolution of this integument there is formation of a water soluble carbohydrate which helps the entry of pollen tube into the ovule by the mechanical means, because it is mucilaginous in nature and also providing chemotropic guidance to the pollen tube. A special structure which facilitates the entry of pollen tube into the ovule is obturator. It forms a sort of bridge for the pollen tube to reach the ovule. After fertilization, the obturator shrinks and disappears. Unfortunately, there is no explanation available for the mechanism of pollen tube entry into the ovules, showing chalazogamy or mesogamy. Now, entry of pollen tube into the embryo sac. We have earlier seen, when we are discussing about the figures showing porogamy, mesogamy and chalazogamy, that whatever may be the site of entry of pollen tube into the ovule, that is whether it is porogamy, mesogamy or chalazogamy, but it always enters into the embryo sac through micropyle. And one of the synergids, there are two synergids at the micropylar end which along with egg are forming egg apparatus. One of the two synergids get degenerated before the entry of the pollen tube into the embryo sac, and this degenerating synergid provides seat for the entry of pollen tube inside the embryo sac. Increase in GA3, that is gibberellic acid concentration in the ovules as a consequence of pollen tube pistil interaction has been suggested as the possible cause of the breakdown of synergid in cotton. The contents of pollen tube are discharged in the synergid and the tube does not grow beyond it in the embryo sac. One of the two sperms formed fuses with the egg cell to form the zygote, and other fuses with the secondary nucleus or with the central cell to form the primary endosperm nucleus. Now, recognition and rejection reactions in pollen pistil interaction. If the pollen grains from the same plant are not able to effect fertilization in the same plant, Such pollen and pistil are known as self-incompatible, and this phenomenon as self-incompatibility, that is, inability of a plant producing functional male and female gametes to set seeds when self-pollinated. The self-compatibility has been reported in 66 families. This was reported by McCubin and Dickinson in 1997. Now, a morphological self-incompatibility. It is of two types, that is heteromorphic. It is characterized by the occurrence of two distyly or three tristyly morphologically distinct mating types within a species, which can be easily recognized without a breeding test. For example, primula. In primula, distyly has been seen, where the there are two kinds of flower, pinnide and thrumide flowers. The pinnide flowers are having long style and short stamens, and thrumide flowers are having short styles and long stamens. And the fertilization or pollination takes place between the pollen grains from the pinnide flower easily pollinate to the flowers of thrumide flower, and vice versa. The other features of heteromorphic incompatibility are: the incompatibility reaction is determined sporophytically. The growth of incompatible pollen tubes is inhibited in the style. Dominance between alleles of incompatibility genes is expressed both in pollen and the style. Now, homomorphic incompatibility. In this category, all the mating types within a species are morphologically indistinguishable and require proper breeding test for their recognition. A species with this type of incompatibility has numerous mating types. Depending on the origin of factors determining the mating types, on the pollen side, two categories of self-incompatibility has been recognized. One, that is gametophytic self-incompatibility or GSI. The incompatibility process here is determined by the genotype of the male gametophyte, that is pollen itself. In sporophytic self-incompatibility, the incompatibility process is controlled by the genotype of the sporophytic tissue of the plant from which pollen is derived. The genetic basis of self-incompatibility. The most popular hypothesis about the genetic control of self-incompatibility is the apposition S allele hypothesis, and that was proposed by East and Mangelsdorf in 1925. According to this hypothesis, incompatibility reactions are controlled by a single gene, that is S gene, which has several alleles. Pollen grains that possess the S allele common to any one of the two alleles present in the cells of pistil will not be functional on that particular pistil. For example, a plant having S1, S2 alleles in its sporophytic tissue, including the pistil, will produce two types of pollens. Half of the pollens having S1 allele and other half S2 allele. According to oppositional S allele concept, neither of the pollen types, that is S1 or S2, would be able to bring about fertilization in the style of this particular plant because both the alleles are present in the styler cells. If plant S1, S2 is pollinated with the pollen from plant S2, S3 genotype, 50% pollen grains carrying S3 allele would be functional, whereas remaining 50% carrying S2 allele will be incompatible, while every pollen grain from S3, S4 plant would be functional on a pistil of a S1, S2 plant. S allele of the pollen, that is male gametophyte, is the determinant of self-incompatibility reaction in gametophytic self-incompatibility. This figure is showing the gametophytic self-incompatibility. From left, in figure A, the female parent is having genotype S1 and S2, and male parent is also having genotype S1, S2. The pollen grains formed are S1, S2 types, and they are not able to effect fertilization because both male and female parents are having similar genotypes. In figure B, the male parent is having genotype S2, S3. That's why the pollen grains formed, 50% of the pollen grain will have the genotype, will have the allele S2 type, and 50% will have the allele of S3 type. And the genotype of female parent is S1, S2. That's why the S3 type of pollen grains will be able to effect fertilization in the female parent having genotype S1, S2. Figure C, here the genotype of the female parent is S1, S2 type, and genotype of male parent is S3, S4. That's why all the pollen grains formed here will be able to effect fertilization, because the pollen grains formed, 50% of the pollen grains will have the allele S3 and 50% will have allele S4. In sporophytic self-incompatibility, all the pollen of a plant behave similarly, irrespective of the S allele they carry. For example, a plant carrying S1, S2 alleles, the pollen carrying S1 or S2 allele would behave as S1 if S1 is dominant, or as S2 if S2 is dominant. If there is no dominance, both will behave as S1 plus S2. The presence of even one of the alleles of the styler tissue in the sporophytic tissue of the male parent would render all the pollen of that plant non-functional with respect to that particular style. For example, it will be clear from this figure. In figure A, the female parent is having genotype S1, S2. The male parent is having genotype S1, S2. That is, both the alleles are common in male and female parents. That's why germination of the pollen grain does not take place on the stigmatic surface. In figure B, the genotype of female parent is S1, S2, and genotype of male parent is S2, S3. Allele S2 is common in both the parents, and in sporophytic self-incompatibility, if a single allele is common in both the parents, germination of the pollen grain is inhibited on the stigmatic surface and fertilization will not be effected. In figure C, the female parent is having genotype S1, S2, and male parent is having genotype S3, S4. Here the genotype of male and female parents are different, and both the alleles are, both male and female parents are having their genotype different. That's why germination of all the pollen grains takes place. In GSI, that is gametophytic self-incompatibility systems, the pollen germinate normally. The pollen tubes penetrate through the stigma but fail to reach the base of the style. That is, the rejection reaction in gametophytic self-incompatibility occurs in style. While in sporophytic self-incompatibility systems, the rejection reaction occurs on the stigma. Either the pollen do not germinate or the pollen tubes fail to penetrate the stigma. Here the types of pollen and pistil in the gametophytic self-incompatibility and sporophytic self-incompatibility. Here in the pollen grains are 3-celled in sporophytic self-incompatibility, while they are 2-celled in gametophytic self-incompatibility. In vitro germination is difficult in sporophytic self-incompatibility. That is, the pollen grains showing sporophytic self-incompatibility, they are difficult to germinate in artificial conditions or laboratory conditions, while pollen grains showing gametophytic self-incompatibility, they are easy to germinate in the in vitro conditions. The viability of pollen grains is short in sporophytic self-incompatibility, while it is long, they are long-lived. In the gametophytic self-incompatibility, pollen grains are long-lived. The respiration rate is high in pollen grains showing sporophytic self-incompatibility, and it is low in gametophytic self-incompatibility. Pistil stigma is dry in sporophytic self-incompatibility showing plants, while it is wet in gametophytic self-incompatibility. Rejection reaction is in sporophytic self-incompatibility, pollen grains are rejected on the stigmatic surface, while in gametophytic self-incompatibility, rejection reaction takes place in styler region. Now, physiology and biochemistry of incompatibility. In an incompatible process, two reactions can be distinguished: recognition reaction and rejection reaction. Number one, a recognition reaction. It occurs at the molecular level, and by this, pistil recognizes whether a particular pollen grain is to be accepted, that is compatible, or rejected, that is incompatible. In sporophytic self-incompatibility systems, the recognition reaction sets in almost immediately after the pollen comes in contact with the stigma. That is, incompatible pollen grains are rejected at the stigmatic surface, while in GSI, that is gametophytic self-incompatibility, the recognition and rejection reactions occur inside the pistil. Now, rejection reaction. In incompatible pollination, the phenotypic manifestations of the changes occurring during recognition bring about the rejection reaction. In sporophytic self-incompatibility, either pollen germination is inhibited on the stigma, or entry of pollen tube into the stigma, or in GSI, that is gametophytic self-incompatibility, inhibition of pollen tube growth is in the style. The recognition proteins of incompatibility are held extracellularly in the pollen wall. In gametophytic self-incompatibility plants, these proteins are present in the intine, and in SSI systems in exine. That is, in sporophytic self-incompatibility systems, the pollen grains are rejected on the stigmatic surface, and that is because of presence of protein present in the exine of the pollen grains. While in gametophytic self-incompatibility, the recognition and rejection center is styler region. Here the intine proteins are involved in the recognition, and further they are rejected in the styler canal. Now, stigma surface inhibition. In SSI systems and some gametophytic systems, the recognition and rejection reactions occur on the stigma. The pollen grains either do not germinate, or the pollen tube is not able to penetrate the stigma. In these cases, if pollen grains are directly introduced into the style, normal fertilization occurs, which clearly indicates the barrier is restricted to the stigma. In most of the species where the rejection reaction occurs on the stigma, are characterized by the dry stigma. In incompatible pollination, a range of abnormal behaviors of the male gametophyte has been recorded. The pollen may fail to germinate. If germination occurs, the tube is very short, or there is formation of apressoria like swellings at the tip of the pollen tubes. The most distinct response of the stigma to an incompatible pollen is the development of chylologic plug between the plasma membrane and pectocellulosic layer of the stigmatic papillae just below the point of contact with the pollen. A chylose plug also appears at the tip of the pollen tube. Now, Styler inhibition. In GSI systems, the recognition and rejection reactions occur in the style after the pollen tube has grown to about 2/3 the length of the style. The proteins incorporated in the intine, that is, proteins which are present in intine, we have earlier discussed, these are involved in recognition and rejection in the styler region in GSI system. In GSI systems, the incompatibility reactions occur due to the production of S allele specific proteins secreted by the styler cells.